ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa says party officials will soon meet with Women's League President Bathabile Dlamini. She was recently found guilty of perjury by the Johannesburg Magistrate's Court. This is over the 2017 inquiry into the social grants debacle. This is while she was Minister of Social Development. Joining me now in studio to discuss this is ANC spokesperson Pule Mabe, who joins us to talk about this and other matters affecting the African National Congress. You see him texting away there quickly. That won't help you. Mabe, you're in studio now. You're not going to get those answers quick enough. Let's start with...
You have to just make sure that it's off. Yes.
I believe you. Yeah. Let's start with Bathabile Dlamini.
Yes.
Firstly, the African National Congress. Why do you need to have a conversation with her? Or should I say, why do leaders of the ANC need to have a conversation with her about her needing to relinquish whatever position she holds within the party when she is now a convicted person?
Morning, Koli, and morning to your viewers. We can't get into people's homes without greeting them. The ANC is an organization of process, and this point was made by our president yesterday on the sidelines of the National Union of Mine Workers Conference. We went to our National Executive Committee meeting, and the decision arrived at, after deliberations in the National Executive Committee, was that officials guided by policy should then be able to meet with Comrade Bathabile, who's also the president of the ANC Women's League. And then they will then be able to then report to the subsequent structures of the ANC, whether it's the NEC or NWC, depending on which one sits first. You see, a process in the ANC does not mean that we are changing policy of the ANC. We are not doing that. It's just that how you really go about executing your own decisions as the African National Congress has got to be located within a certain frame. And that frame, it's process. Look at how much time it took, even for us as the leadership of the African National Congress, to have made finality on step-aside guidelines. Took time. We had deliberated this, followed through what was a resolution of the 54th National Conference on what we needed to do to restore the integrity and credibility of the African National Congress. We still had to come back, establish that task team led by our Treasurer General, Comrade Pule Mabe. And then it had to also come back with the guidelines so that these guidelines could then be affirmed or adopted by the National Executive Committee and then sent to our structures far and wide.
Mr. Mabe, with the greatest of respect, sir, the process is one thing. Walking on eggshells around a particular leader is quite another. And I put it to you, the leaders of the ANC are walking on eggshells around Bathabile Dlamini, and I'm going to explain why I'm of this view. The step-aside rule, when you are before the courts, that is when you step aside. If your conscience has not told you yet to step aside from your position until the matter is concluded. Once you have been convicted, you resign your position. This has not happened. And instead of enforcing this, as I say, leaders of the ANC are walking on eggshells. Tell me I'm wrong.
Well, Goli, it's not even about you being right or wrong. Perhaps it's about us making sure that even yourselves in the media appreciate how ANC processes work. I mean, look, some of these questions you raise are really based on your own patience or impatience, rather, with the process of the ANC. What the organization has not done is that it has never come out and say it is going to renege from its own positions or guidelines, regardless of whoever is involved. I mean, look, just a simple example, in provinces and even at a national level, we have enforced difficult decisions that even impacted upon the role of our own key leading figures. So now, the very step-aside resolution. We have had to ask our own Secretary General to step aside. You know, in Limpopo, they've had to ask their own treasurer to step aside. In many other, I'm just citing this as key leaders of the organization. Of course, there are numerous other debates taking place in the organization in terms of how we interpret this rule. And we need to make sure that we remain loyal to our own decisions.
Mr. Mabe, the decision around Bathabile Dlamini and her positions in the ANC, I'm sure members of the public will leave that to the ANC about how much time you take in actually booting her out eventually of the position. In fact, one might ask the question, do we even have a women's league leadership to speak of? Because the understanding is that the very organization she purports to lead, it's overstayed its welcome, and right now we are unsure about whether the current leadership exists. Does it?
Well, of course, I mean, the leadership of the ANC Women's League does exist. We were seized with this matter as the National Working Committee and ultimately made certain recommendations to the NEC that set this previous weekend, which were affirmed. The establishment of a task team led by Comrade Thandi Modise, Comrade Nati, and Comrade Jean, to begin looking at do a health check on the Women's League. So when I talk health check, I mean overall, are there branches? Is there a program to take them to Congress? What's really happening? Now, they will then submit that fuller report that now gives the status of the Women's League to the SGO, which is now being led by the Treasurer General, owing to the ill health of our DSG, whom we continue to wish well. So once that is done, then you will then make, even this last NEC did not arrive at the determination to disband the Women's League. There are reasons why the Women's League could not have been able to done its work effectively and efficiently. It was largely because of COVID. And by the way, the Women's League, and in fairness to them, the Women's League has been the important driver of our 2021 local government elections campaign.
Okay.
I mean, remember at one point we had to stop an event in Limpopo to celebrate the life and times of Mama Charlotte Maqheke because they were oversubscribed.
Let me ask you this question very briefly, Mr. Mabe, before we take a break. And it's around the sentencing of Bathabile Dlamini. That is expected to happen tomorrow. The question is, on the back of Sibongile money, and I'm not in any way marrying the two cases.
Yes.
I'm simply asking you for your opinion as a party in leadership. She has been sentenced to 5 years for money that was erroneously paid into her account. She subsequently uses 800,000 of that. Some people are saying that, that's a bit harsh because she's a first-time offender and perhaps she should have been given a suspended sentence to do community work. But acting criminally is exactly that. I suppose she got what the courts decided to dispense. Here's my question. Bathabile Dlamini is a leader of the ANC Women's League. She's not a first-time offender. She has lied before under oath. This time around, she's convicted for the very same offense of lying under oath. What example do you think the court should set with her?
Well, Koli, I don't really think that it is necessary to draw the ANC or its spokesperson into wanting to now enter issues of judicial terrain. You know, we wouldn't be doing that ourselves. I mean, we are not competent enough to even comment about such.
It's simply about morality, Mr.
Well, look, Koli, there's a matter that is before the court. There's sentencing, as you say, tomorrow. Comrade Bathabile has got their own legal team. They are assessing these developments. They will, if they want to act well within their own rights, they are allowed to do so.
Will you welcome the custodial sentence?
Well, I do not think that it is necessary at this stage because the National Executive Committee, on whose behalf I speak, has not given me that mandate to then begin coming here and characterizing cases and how the ANC will want to comment afterwards. if the ANC deems it fit to speak when there's been the sentencing, depending on developments that comes afterwards, whether there's appeal, whatever they could be there, the ANC will then be able to direct me. You need to understand this clearly. When I come to your studios to speak, I do so not on my behalf, I do so on behalf of the African National Congress.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
Please stay with us because we have quite a bit to discuss, in particular around the conference that's expected of the ANC in Mpumalanga. We'll continue in a moment. You're watching Newsfeed AM. If you're just joining us, we are in conversation with ANC spokesperson Pule Mabe, and we're discussing the upcoming sentencing of the president of the ANC Women's League, Bathabile Dlamini. We've gone some distance there. We're going to sway the conversation to a completely different terrain, Mr. Mabe. Let's try and tell those people that you are busy right now. I see the texting continues. Mr. Mabe, let's talk about the ANC conference that's meant to take place in Mpumalanga, the elective conference. There clearly are issues there. We spoke yesterday to a member of the ANC who says he fears for his life because he has been threatened for questioning irregularities at branch level. Ghost members clearly are again a big talking point in ANC conferences as we lead up to December. What is being done to make sure that these conferences are run above board?
Well, Koli, we are doing everything else in our power to achieve exactly what you spoke about, making sure that conferences are run above board. Coming out of the 54th National Conference, we introduced a new membership system. One that would make sure that it's divorced from any possible manipulation, could be able to accommodate everyone who wants to be a member of the ANC, allow those that are members of the ANC to be able to participate, remove those that are in the leadership structure of the ANC, even at a branch level, from a possible, administrative manipulation of such processes where they could decide. Remember the previous process, you could eventually just decide who you want to call in a meeting. Because as a branch secretary, you will have the full powers and authority to effectively sign off credentials of your own branch. Now, with this new system, it now centralizes the membership system and allows our head office, who then secret the membership data, to be able to then assign and send through those lists of approved members of the ANC who are in good standing. So those members who are in good standing would then be able to then constitute credentials of a branch when they effectively convene their own branch general meeting or biannual branch general meeting to elect the leadership of that branch. So there's a lot of work that has happened. We know that systems always come with their own glitches and all of that, and there will always be others who might want to try their own things. So where we have picked up that, and I want to conclude this point, where we have picked up that they could have been members or those that are in our own employ who might have attempted to really have their hands around the system, would have initiated processes of DC, where its employees will use the personnel manual to make sure that relevant actions are being taken. Because we are quite serious about preserving the credibility and integrity of our own internal processes to make sure that the legitimacy of our conferences is not questioned. As it relates to whether the Mpumalanga conference is going ahead or not, conference is going ahead. We are sitting again this afternoon just to look at the credentials. I mean, about 314 branches have been signed off by the Treasurer General to constitute that conference. 291 or so of the branches of Mpumalanga would have constituted the 70% required for them to meet. So they are even beyond the 70% threshold. Where there was threats of interdicting conference, our own legal team has been seized with that matter. And from what has come to our attention is that of the four that they brought the letter, not the court interdict, or they've not even approached the court that brought the letter. Two of them had already written affidavits to our structure in Mpumalanga saying their names were used without their own knowledge. The other two, to conclude, because this is critical information, the other two are not members in good standing. Notwithstanding that, we still said to our legal team, let's steam ahead and understand, because they were raising issues like the roadmap, the validity, whether the PTT or IPC had the necessary authority to be able to convene conference, deal with a roadmap that also had to really produce the number of BGMs that we'll have seen that were electing delegates to this conference.
Mr. Mabe, let's conclude the conversation with the general picture that will be painted after the ANC conferences that are meant to be held leading up to December. Once these conferences have been held, the kind of picture that you want ordinary South Africans to be left with as a people, or should I say as a party that says it is a leader of society. Violence has characterized many of the ANC conferences, and more recently you have people killing each other, and it's a fight for positions within the ANC. Is that culture likely to remain? What kind of picture would you want South Africans to have once all of these conferences have concluded and you have the main conference in December?
Well, Toli, in February of this year, just around the 26th of Feb, 25th, 26th there, the president of the ANC, in his capacity as the president of the ANC, began participating in a program as part of the build-up towards the launch of Letsema, which we are launching next Friday out in the Free State, to visit provinces. And in visiting provinces, so he went to the Eastern Cape and also went to Mpumalanga. It then began giving him a picture as the president on what is the ANC today, what is the kind of members you have now. And in our own NEC, when he made that reflection in answering your question, he did say that we need to do a lot more as part of our own renewal efforts to make sure that the caliber of members we have today appreciate the historic mission and the task ahead that an organization like the ANC is having to fulfill. So meaning that the ANC must begin ridding itself of what has come out as thuggery, members who fight in conferences, who manipulate credentials so that they could be able to predetermine the outcome of conferences. You know, just basically undermining processes of organization. Now, the renewal process that the president has said we must lead is one that ensures that the ANC does not appear as a corrupt organization. The ANC is an organization whose processes are credible, where everyone who qualifies to be a member of the ANC can believe that they can join the ANC, they can participate, they can vote and be voted for, they can make their voice heard in terms of design, the policy designs that the ANC must drive forward. So the picture we want, and to conclude the point, the picture we want an ANC that appears credible, the ANC that earns the trust of the people it leads out of the programs it forges ahead with, but also through the people it has or entrust with the responsibility to lead. This must be men and women who could be trusted.
Pule Mabe, thank you very much for your time. ANC spokesperson joining us in studio.